Welcome. Congratulations, Bob.
Whew, nothing like finishing up strong.
That's got to feel good. You were 0-5.
When in doubt, you got to go back to the confidants. What can I say?
You should have gone to the confidants earlier, apparently.
I guess, yeah. Certainly before 7 and 8 mana spells start getting cast.
Now, here's the question. Ephro posed this. Would you rather have Dave win such that you're guaranteed not last, or Josh win so that you have a 1-7 shot at the playoffs and a 1-7 shot at last place?
Josh win.
Yeah, I'm the same way. No question. Gamer's
Look,
got a game.
you could give me a 1 and 8 shot at making the playoffs and a 6 out of 8 shot at finishing dead last, and I still want the shot at winning.
Wow.
And I don't want to finish dead last, but I kind of wrote that off a while ago, starting off
You've already
1-5.
come to grips with it?
Yeah, I mean, it almost seemed inevitable for a while, so yeah. I'm living on borrowed time.
Sign me up. I want the playoffs too. I
Yeah.
think everybody
Actually,
wants the seven-way tie. So we're talking about this, by the way. The way the seven-way tie, I think this has to work. Just sanity check what Eric and I were talking about. There's one bye. We have an 8-person bracket. Somebody gets a bye, but if that person who got the bye then loses their sort of pseudo semifinal game, they go to the losers bracket and they play off with the 0-1s. They're still live to finish last. That's how it has to work, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, in a giant 7-way, I don't. Yeah, I know some people were talking about wanting double elim. I don't. I mean, we've already played round robin. I mean,
Yeah.
we've
No,
already
it's a
come
bracket.
to a
It's a
standstill.
bracket with one bye, and if the guy with the bye loses, then the losers bracket is a clean 4 players. If the guy with the bye wins, then the losers bracket has a 3-way tie still playing for is a 3-way tie for last, where one of them gets the bad version of the bye straight into the finals. Yeah, you don't want that bye, but see what happens.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And I've been actually testing with David as much as I could today.
Yeah.
This
What
matchup,
does he think of
and
his matchup?
it actually seemed pretty even. Yeah, both decks were able to do just some really ridiculous things. Uh, and I actually think so. The more I was playing with Josh's deck, the better I was doing with it. And I
Okay.
don't think it was so much learning Josh's deck as to figuring out what cards in David's deck were important to Josh. But like I said, I'm a little more rusty than a lot of these guys. They might just be able to look at the deck lists and figure it out.
So what are the cards that Josh cares about?
Um, since Divining Top is a really big deal, much bigger than I had necessarily anticipated. There's
Hmm.
just so many sack lands and so much manipulation that it ends up being worth far more than a card.
Okay. All right. Sounds like these guys are ready to start. Let's get down to it. One match, everything on the line. No one's been eliminated from anything. Let's do it. I want to see. Show me the match. All right, Josh is off to the races with with an ancestral recall in his hand. Dave has the key, the spiral. He's on one land ponder. Ponder mystical. Yeah, it's kind of a mana light draw that David's kept here, yeah?
It's a very mana draw against a deck with 4 missteps.
Yeah. But he can misstep back, so that helps.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Testing with David in my matchup, he just absolutely beat me into submission. That they always have the misstep. I mean, even in that last game I played, I don't know how long he had missteps, but I didn't play my key or my ring forever.
That was super smart. He had to misstep. Yeah, the Soul Ring was the one I was most impressed by your patience on.
Well, I mean, you just can't play it if it's going to cost you a turn if they have the step.
Yeah, exactly. It would have made your turn way more elegant, but all right. So Josh says go. Dave goes for ponder. Josh is going to go for his own ancestral on top of the ponder, but they always have the misstep.
They always have it.
David counters, and now he gets to resolve his ponder.
And this coming from a guy who always went by the stance of they never have it. So
yeah, people give you too much credit sometimes. I've definitely I spent a lot of my career with untapped islands and a grip trying to look as scary as possible. And nobody tests you. They don't test you nearly enough.
I went through an entire PT with islands without a counterspell in my deck, and everyone assumed I had it all the way through day 2.
Which one was that?
Chicago. There was a Chicago where I basically played a Blue Skies variant with Onks
Oh,
and
sure.
Parallax Tides instead of counters. And I made top 16 because everyone was just waiting for the thwarts and foils and bases, and they just weren't there.
Yeah, I remember I was playing Counter Phoenix for a while. The Grand Prix finals, John Finkel is just like, turn 4, I'll try a lobotomy. Like, that's not supposed to work.
Yeah.
Suddenly all my Shard Phoenixes have been removed from the game. Like John knew, sometimes you just run it out there and make them prove they have a counterspell. It did not win that match.
Yeah, especially John. Talk about the one player I have an alarmingly bad record against.
All right. Well, Dave gets the Demonic Tutor and gets his Time Vault. So he has.
Vault. He's just going straight for the throat.
Yeah. I mean, his Ancestral resolved, right? Or no, he's topped Josh's Ancestral. He got his Ponder. DT resolved. So Josh gets to see what's up now with the Gataxian Probe, but
there's not much he can do about it.
He needs
unless he draws a land for that mana drain.
He needs a land so that he can have up mana drain. Those Pyroblast are not going to stop the 2 artifacts. Now, it does take 4 mana to actually win the game, so Dave's not threatening to untap him.
That misstep.
That can counter a Voltaic Key. Dave has... Is that a Flusterstorm or a Hurkyl's Recall? That's a Hurkyl's Recall.
Hurkyl's Recall.
Ooh, Mystical Tutor. Is that bait?
Well, I mean, Josh has seen his hand. I don't think he can counter a Mystical.
Yeah, I agree. Which means Dave can, go get an Ancestral of his own?
Yeah.
Well, that can be Pyroblasted. Now, this is kind of an interesting game.
Well, David can take all the time he wants. I mean, Josh just missed a land drop, and Gataxian probed Dave's hand and didn't concede. I mean, so he could just... I mean, he's just going to take all the time in the world.
Yeah, fair enough. Josh is thinking about this Mystical. All right, does not counter it.
I mean, he can think about it because he can hope to counter it, draw a land, and then have mana drain up because he can't actually Vault Key this turn.
All right, Dave's going to go for the Vault, looks like. So the Mystical resolved, and the Mystical got a Force of Will.
Seems like a fine place to start.
Agreed.
No, Josh has another shot at this island.
Josh is still okay, though, since, wow, another probe. He already knows all the cards. He just wants to draw a land. Yeah, the Pyroblast, like, Misstep plus Pyro actually beats Dave's hand right now.
I mean, Misstep plus Pyro or just Mana Drain plus Misstep.
Yeah, hilariously, though, Josh is forced to discard 8 cards. Which one do you not want? Discard Dig 3 times.
Dig.
Oh, Misstep. That is gigantic.
That's a doozy, yeah.
That's the game, right? Josh will misstep. Dave will misstep back. Now when Josh
Pyro,
Dave's Force of Will is good enough. No second land from Josh, so he can only cast one of his Pyros, and he never got to mana drain mana.
My Mystical Tutors don't let me set the top 2 cards of my deck. I need to file a bug report.
Force of Will. Yep.
Boom.
David Williams. Dream Crusher David Williams does not want the 7-way tie. He just wants a spot in the top 4.
It wouldn't feel like VSL if I didn't have a reasonable shot at ending dead last, so. So I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, Raptor is last if he loses this. He needs to rattle off 2 straight, not just to create the 7-way tie, but also if he wants to play Season 2.
Wait, but for David playing this match, is it winning in?
Yeah, it's winning in. He is tied for 3rd and 4th. Efro and David will play in the first round of the playoffs if Dave wins this. The only tiebreaker we have, if David wins this, the only tiebreaker we have is LSV and Steve playing for the 1 seed.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's super clean. I mean, it's not crystal clean because Steve and Luis have to play for the 1 seed. But next week's show would basically be Luis and Steve playing off for the 1 seed, and then Eric and David playing playing the quarterfinal. All right, here's Dave's deck. I don't know, does sideboarding change anything? You said you play tested this match a lot with David?
Yeah, the Toxic Deluge comes in, for
Okay.
sure. And I think that's about it. Oh, the Power Blast and Red Blast, of course.
Makes sense. What about over on Josh's side of things?
So Josh is an interesting choice, how he feels about Ingot Chewers and Nature's Claim.
Okay.
I mean, David's deck obviously operates entirely off artifacts. Some of them get left in play for a significant period of time.
So the grudges are in already, and you're trying to think about whether you want more?
Yeah. Me
Makes
personally,
sense.
when I was playing it out, I just brought in the 2 Ancient Grudge, and I think
Yeah, I wouldn't want the
that's
Ingot
it.
Chewers. I could think maybe Nature's Claim, depending on how many bad cards you have. All right, let's get down to the matches.
Yeah. The only problem with Ancient Grudge is that it only comes off of 2 Tropical Islands.
Yeah, sure.
And I guess the Emerald or Lotus if you want to.
Smemin suggesting in chat that Josh should bring in the grudges. Just the grudges.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think when.
Yeah, you
when
definitely bring in the grudges.
David,
It's just a question of is it just the grudges? And that's what Steve is saying.
Yes, I believe it is just the grudges.
Josh leads with a turn 1 Ancestral. You said they always have the misstep. I don't see a misstep.
You still have to play out your hand.
Dave elects for the Force of Will on the Ancestral, which is always an kind of tricky judgment call. I find. I don't know. I pitching 2 known spells to stop a draw 3 is kind of borderline in my mind. And in fact, Josh decided not to force back.
I like it in David's hand because typically if your opponent has Force of Will, they will force a will back. It's one of those, well, if you want me to not have it that badly, then I want it even more.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want his opponent drawing into mental missteps and for Goblin Welder. Goblin Welder is very powerful in his deck.
Agreed.
And then he's also just a handful of mana. So if it goes Force Will back and forth, the Delver deck is probably going to have to, or the Pyromancer deck is going to have to tap mana to get a threat out at some point, and then maybe he can get a draw 7 off.
Makes sense. But yeah, Josh did not force back.
And if I was David, that wouldn't be what I'm expecting at all. Like, I'm not playing my opponent for a Force of Will here.
Yeah, you put Josh on no Force of Will at this point. I would could see that. All right. Josh Pyroblast, Dave's Brainstorm. Dave does not have gas.
This deck sits with a lot of mana in play quite often. It just has so many draw 7s and tutors and powerful effects that you just always have to be ready.
So how does Josh play it from here? He's sitting on Force Gush.
So his deck doesn't just run off a casual Gush nearly as well as the Delver decks do.
Okay.
So I think he's doing exactly what he has to. Yeah. I mean, next turn he might float 2 and run it, and he may just hope to get up to 5 mana so he can cast Force and then Force again.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he draws a 5th land, then it seems like you just sit on Force of Will, and I mean, you can pay the alternate casting cost of 4 blue for Gush.
Yeah, I think at this point you probably wait it out.
You're a Drago deck.
I mean, because you also don't want 4 lands in your hand. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just makes a lot of the cards useless.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just play land, say go. Next turn, play a land, say go. And it looks like Josh agrees with us. Ooh, Transmute is the game if it resolves. And if it doesn't resolve, then the Welder can go get the Time Vault.
No, sacrifice is part of the effect, right? On this one?
I think you're right.
Yeah, so...
Okay, so Josh has to counter this.
And he realizes he has to counter this.
Yeah. Now, I was thinking about how Artifact Destruction interacts with it, where the Welder can save him, but Force of Will does not save him. So he's going to float 2 and Gush, hoping for 2 blue cards. He draws a dig, and now he can decide whether he wants to leave himself with a force of will or a dig. Probably a dig.
I actually don't know David's list very well.
Oh, he can dig as a response. That's what he does.
Yeah,
Back to
well,
fetch
it
lane,
depends
back
on
to
if your
fetch lane,
opponent
dig.
is running Flusterstorm, and I don't know. I don't believe David is running Flusterstorm.
How much
'Cause there-
food's over there? 6
There
cards.
are hands where you look at there are times when you look at 7 cards, you only hit 1 blue card. Not very
Still.
often, but it can happen.
So I guess he left one floating to get a better color. I guess he has a red floating. I can't see it, but that's the right play. So
Yes, he has a red floating. It's peeking out from underneath the transmute.
sure. Don't know what dig is going to see. We'll see what comes into his hand. See a bunch of cards entering. Yeah. Delves away his graveyard. Hence 2 mana for a dig through time. 7 spells, I'm told. That's got to be good for Josh.
That's when he just pauses. Can I just make this a treasure cruise?
Pyroblast, he has selected. That seems like a good one. And Mental Misstep is the second choice. A blue card that can potentially misstep back. Like if Dave has a misstep as his last card, then that's
Right.
the counter.
But it is no action. It gets him no further in this game, and it has put him down to 2 lands in play.
That's true. He's gonna though, when the dust settles, he can still force a will twice next turn because he can play the Lotus and then have the ability to both hard cast and also pitch cast.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's a very safe 2 lands.
But like you say, no action. Of course, we saw Josh do that last week, right? Where he almost got decked. Was that last week?
One of the big issues here is if David just draws a good artifact.
It's true.
Like if he draws the Time Vault, the game's over. If he draws a top, even if it gets misstepped, it just comes right back into play and starts top keying, drawing extra cards.
All true. Josh should probably pay mana for this probe. What do you think? Yeah, he does. Dig through time. That's a good one. Only 3 cards, but
he can 5.
I mean, he can sack the Lotus effectively for 4.
Yeah.
Maybe wait a turn there and play a fetch land, dig next turn, since you haven't been forced to dig.
Yeah, and David's deck really does play out quite like you see some stack decks sometimes. These really explosive initial starts, and sometimes they just blank out instead of drawing threats. But I happen to like that deck's threats better than the threats off of a shop stack off the top.
Yeah. Yeah, Josh gonna say go. Leave up Force of Will. He's not forced to cast it. He can dig at instant speed. Toxic Deluge, not gonna get it done for David.
No, and this is where the game starts to get out of reach.
Yup.
This dig is almost certainly going to find a way to get that welder off the table, and then the game is...
Yeah, Josh's ideal dig here is something like Lightning Bolt Young Pyromancer.
Even Lightning Bolt Gush is fine. I mean, anything to just keep him moving. He has to hit a Pyromancer eventually.
Yeah, I think it's time to try to find the Pyromancer.
Dig into dig.
Okay. That one didn't take long. All right, first I'm going to take the dig. Let me see what else I want. Oh, 5 lands on this one. What's the other spell?
Yeah.
And a Gitaxian Probe. 5
this is
lands.
funny. The last match I played against David with this deck, my dig was 5 land, 2 Gitaxian Probe.
Oh, jeez. Oh, but one of the lands is a Library of Alexandria. My spotter didn't tell me that part.
That's a big deal.
It's funny. If he hadn't been forced to play the Ruby last turn, he didn't want to sack his Lotus, so he played the Ruby. Otherwise, he'd be at 7.
I really think you just keep it going. So he did bring in Nature's Claim. But you just want to keep going. I mean, you want that welder off the board before there's any more draw steps.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a much bigger degree of safety against David than there would be against, well, not much bigger, one more card. Because David has a couple cards in hand. Aoife had the Mind's Desire, where David doesn't.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think, like, against David, once the Welder's off the board, the counters are really all you need.
Draws a fast bond. Not the most exciting card in his deck at this point. Wow, and ships. Leaving up Hardcast Force of Will. So like we said, that doesn't actually beat Time Vault off the top.
Well, with the Nature's Claim, it helps.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, Nature's Claim would buy him a turn. He can also dig his response. Seems like the right play. No need to dig main phase when you can leave up Hardcast Force of Will. Now, what does he find?
David's being a trooper here, sticking it out.
Yeah,
I would have a hard time continuing to play this game.
It's just 10 turns away. 10 more attacks for 1. He's got it. Plus, we have to see how many dig puns our chat can come up with.
I mean, even if he draws Inkwell, he can cast it.
Yeah, this one is apparently a bunch of spells. So he goes Flusterstorm. Is that Ancient Grudge?
Yeah, he's just going to start clearing the artifacts off the board so he doesn't have to worry about the Welder if he can't kill it.
Don't have to kill the Welder if you kill all the artifacts. That's pretty funny.
And if he did bring in the Nature's Claims, that might have been what he was looking at taking out. I mean, the bolts aren't good against anything other than this Welder.
Yeah, sure. Plays a Fire Ice, though, right? That one. That's a blue card. You definitely leave that one in. If you have to have one. Attack you for 1. Put you at 9. A Gush. Josh plays his Fast Bond because he doesn't want to discard. Oh, he's going to go ahead and Gush. Picks up 2 lands. There's the Young Pyromancer and the Time Walk.
And the wheels come off.
Yeah, now you play Young Pyro, start blowing up artifacts for the extra value of getting 1/1s.
Yeah, you just lead with Time Walk.
Sure. Young Pyro resolves. He's seen Dave's hand. He knows there's nothing over there other than a deluge.
Right. And at least he puts David to the decision that if you want a deluge, then you don't get a Welder.
Right. I don't think Josh would let deluge resolve, but maybe.
Fair. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that.
I mean, just because he has so many counters at this point, and he knows Dave has so little gas, just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Time to start killing artifacts, especially if you kill all the artifacts. Then the Welder's not even scary.
Well, knowing he has Sapphire Mana Crypt in his hand, the Welder's still a little scary.
I guess that's fair.
I mean, he's still going to have Nature's Claim up to respond to the Welder. So
Right.
it's basically a Time Walk for it.
All right. Down goes Voltaic. Flashback. Down goes Mox Jet. Time Walk turn is floating. Another Gush.
Yeah, why not?
Josh gets full value out of his deck. He sees a lot of cards.
How many cards are left in his deck?
I don't know, 20 some, I think. Most of which have been dug to the bottom.
Yeah, most of which he knows the order of.
I should. All right, that Gush gave him a Vampiric Tutor and a Young Pyromancer, so he can get a second Pyro down if he wants. Vampiric for whatever he wants. He also just sit on a grip full of counterspells. Wow, we're going to game 3, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
There's no other way this could have ended. One game with how many people's fate on the line? Kind of
Well,
all of us.
one game.
Awesome. Josh goes ahead and commits the second Young Pyromancer to the board. Clearly planning on countering a deluge should one happen. Gets to attack for what, 5 this turn? He's looking at least 8 next turn. More if he gets an encounter war over a deluge.
No, second welder taunting him.
Place the Mana Crypt. Welds it into... Oh, does he need the jet for... No, he wants the key. He wants to look as scary as possible. Funny. I've got a key in play. You want my welder to die, don't you? Josh is like, no, I don't actually care about you killing your own welder. I would like to attack you and kill you over the course of the next 2 turns. Yeah. Forces of Wills, the Deluge. Yeah, having Nature's Claim in his hand means he's not actually worried about Dave's last card being a Time Vault.
Yeah.
Dave plays Welder. Does Josh have a Fire Ice? Because this would be a pretty good spot to Vampiric for one.
I mean, if we haven't seen a Yogg-Well, it just seems like a fine place to just take another turn.
That's fair too. How about Yawgmoth's Will?
I don't think we're going to play it out much from here.
Yeah, no, you just Yawgmoth's Will back to Time Walk, and that should do it. Dave's not going to make him play it out. Game number 3, last game of the season. Love it.
I guess it's the way it should be.
David does get to be on the play. So yep. Broken deck on the play, trying to crush everyone's dreams except David's. And I guess Ephro is probably on Dave's side of this too, right? Ephro clinches playoffs rather than being forced to... Oh, Ephro's in either way.
Ephro's in. No.
Ephro's in either way. Yeah, it's just Dave trying to force the clean cut. Nobody's cheering for him, right? Yeah, pretty much nobody's cheering for him. None of the fans are cheering for him. None of us are cheering for him. Hilarious.
Well,
they're back in. Neither player messed with their sideboard, so they're ready for game 3.
One game for everything.
One game to decide it all. Love it.
I couldn't ask for anything more than this.
6 cards for Josh. I think I saw. Dave has 2 land. Wow, he's got 4 mana and a mystical and a force. Josh has an ancestral and a young pyro.
He has mystical force and misdirection.
Not enough blue cards though. He's either force or misdirection is how I read that hand.
Well, no, it's certainly not.
It matters both. Versus the ancestral recall. You make a good point.
That's exactly it. He gets to go either way with it.
So what's your line if you're David? You're mysticaling for Tinker if nothing happens? Yeah, it should just be Tinker, right? Oh, geez. Josh is pretty lucky to draw that Cataxian probe rather than walk into misdirection.
Absolutely true. It's still kind of crushing.
Yeah, no, I mean, what does he do? I mean, it means he can't cast his ancestral. It means he just says, what, land go?
Well, yeah, he has no choice. Getting to see his opponent's hand, he has no choice.
Agreed. And then Dave is going to mystical, and Josh can't do anything about it. Whatever Dave gets is just going to resolve. Josh is going to do another probe, hoping for some magic card to come off the top of his deck, but Volcanic Island is not that magic card.
Well, it's a magic card.
It's a capital M magic card. We needed a lowercase m magic card. So what do you tutor for if you're David?
I think you just go get Tinker. I mean, your opponent has one land. He can't get. It can't get. Actually, I don't even know if he has deck Faden, so can't get deck Faden or Jace. But I don't even know if his opponent's playing either of those. Basically, his Tinker target, nothing can happen to it. Josh can't operate without islands in play, so it's not like he can make a ton of Young Pyromancer tokens without just going down to no land.
Yep. Josh has a Jace, but not a deck. But yeah,
But it's just that one time where your Tinker target's so safe, I don't know what else you Tinker for.
Yeah, I mean, the deck often tinkers for Jar and tries to go off, but I'm with you. And that's what Dave did, remember, a couple nights ago when he was playing fairly late at night. Mine may not have been on his Magic game as much as the charity poker event he was at. He tinkered out a Jar when he should have gotten the Bladesteel. Not the Bladesteel, the Inkwell.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll go, yeah, I think this should be mystical for Tinker for Inkwell.
Yeah, wow, it's better for Josh, but it's just so tough having seen David's hand. Where
Tinker.
you want to Ancestral in response, and you know you can't.
Yep. Here's the Tinker. Nothing Josh can do about it.
The big fish.
He could Ancestral, hoping Dave will choose not to misdirect it somehow, because Dave is saving his Force of Will for the counterspell that he puts Josh on baiting. I don't know. That's probably slightly better than letting this resolve, like giving Dave the opportunity to make a mistake.
I mean, the only time I would have seen a play like that is, oh no, he doesn't even have a second land. I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
if he had 2 mana out, he could have Ancestral in response to the Mystical. After seeing David's hand, David has a choice to misdirect back, thinking there might be a Flusterstorm countering them both.
Right. But yeah, just Josh is just not in a good spot. David gets Inkwell Leviathan into play. 3 attacks from the end of the season and a clean cut.
So the Mox helps. He gets to play his Pyromancer, float a mana, gush, if he wants to this turn, or he should probably just wait. But, I mean, coming up soon, he'll be able to gush, he'll be able to dig through time.
Wow. Yeah, Dave uses the Force of Will on the Young Pyromancer. I think this is the right play for David, because his only chance of losing this game is to somehow get outraced by Young Pyro. He also doesn't know about the Ancestral, which Josh can now cast safely. But Josh has to race Inkwell, and even, I mean, I think if you give David the choice of countering an Ancestral or a Young Pyromancer, the Pyromancer is actually scarier there.
Yeah, I mean, David is now Hellbent, and if Josh's Graveyard gets much better, a Yawgmoth's Will could do some very serious damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dig through time into, like, Time Walk and Yawgmoth's Will.
Yeah, kind of the only card Josh can have there to punish Dave for the Force of Will is the Ancestral. And even then, he just gets so much value out of stopping that Young Pyromancer and taking so many race situations out of play. Now Josh has to kind of stitch together. It's going to have to be like a Time Walk, a Yawgmoth's Will, a Time Walk, some combination of cards like that. And he does have dig through time, but
he does not want to sack any more lands.
Yeah, no, at 8, he's done cracking fetch lands. Oh, he bricks off this Brainstorm. Wow, he's going to have to dig through that garbage, I guess?
Yes.
Because cracking a fetch land would make 1 Inkwell Leviathan hit lethal. So that's not happening. Yeah, fetch land was the first card that went back, because it is blank. And now they get this tricky little dance of how many cards, what do I remove from the dig when Yawgmoth's Will is one of the ways I get out of this. Yeah, plays the Mox. That way that's 1 less card he has to delve through. Not interested in gushing, I guess. Just dig first, remove 4.
Hmm.
Or dig, Flusterstorm, throw, gush, Nature's Claim. I guess 2 lands. That's not going to get it done.
No, it is not.
Clean cut. After all this, we got to game 3 of a match, the last match of the regular season.
Whew.
And we have the clean cut.
Yes, game 3 of what match? 45?
Game 3 of, yeah. Match 45. Wow. So unless we're missing some miracle runner possibilities, Josh will finish last. He will not be invited back to play season 2. David and Eric will tie for 3rd. We don't need to break that tie because they just play each other anyway. Luis and Steve will need to play each other one match to see which one of them gets the 1 seed, which one of them gets the 2 seed. So yeah, we just start the playoffs next week. Eric versus Dave. By the way, those playoff matches are best 2 out of 3 matches. So they'll play as many as 9 games against each other, whatever it takes to get one of them to win the match twice. New decks for the playoffs. Everybody will everybody who's, well, I guess it's just the 4 of them. The 4 of them will all submit a deck, which will be their deck for the entire run of the playoffs. Obviously, nobody gets to see deck lists that first week, but when we get to the second week of the playoffs, the week where I guess the loser of Luis and Steve's tiebreaker match will be playing the winner of Eric and David's quarterfinal match, and the deck list will have been published by then, of course.
Well, that was just, I mean, when do they play that playoff match?
Next week we'll play the tiebreaker for the 1 seed, and we'll play the quarterfinals.
I didn't know if you'd wait till the next week for whether or not they would. The winner of the 3-4 match would get to play test against for their 2-3 match.
Yeah, there'll be a week in between. We'll have 4 matches next week anyway. 3 or 4 matches. I don't want to make it 5 to 7. Inkwell chips over. Josh Utter-Leyton down to his last point of life. Dave has a divining top. So Josh does have another dig through time, but he can't actually afford to cast it. Dave's going to spin his top here, I guess.
So, I mean, at the end of turn, Josh will blow up his own Mox, Pyroblast something.
Yeah, Nature's Claim can get him before, where a second Nature's Claim could buy him another turn.
I was more just thinking if he ran into Fast Bond somewhere in this imaginary process where there's a combination of cards that get him out of this.
Yeah. Float 2 and Gush is how you start this turn, right?
Well, you have to get all your lands off the board.
You want to be blocking the trampling 7 power guy? Good luck getting 7 toughness in front of it. Well, there's a demonic tutor. That's not nothing. Okay. Now what? I mean, you can play a land, float 2 more, Gush again. Fast Bond doesn't do him any good when he's on 1 life.
Unless he claims his own
into 4
artifact.
life. Yeah.
And I guess not doing that end of turn is fine, because it's basically just tap the emerald to claim itself. It doesn't matter when you do that.
Yeah.
I would have Pyroblasted a permanent, though.
Just to have a card in your graveyard for Delve?
Yeah. Although I think it matters not at all.
I mean, I'm starting to wonder if I wrote Josh off too fast. I'm sure that there's, if he could stack his deck from here, there probably are scenarios, right? All right, he's going to play a land. That probably means he's floating 2 and gushing. He does not play the Vault Key combo, right? Yeah, it does not play Vault Key, so that's not happening. basically, in order to actually win the game, he has to get Pyromancer and a bunch of dudes. That means some time walks. All right, here's Gush. Finds Vampiric Tutor, which is blank while he's on 1 life. Mental Misstep. That didn't really help. Yeah, it doesn't even have a way to draw the Vampiric card. If he did, gain 4 life from Nature's Claim. So he's got a Demonic Tutor, but he's obliged to resolve Time Walk, right?
Yes. Time Walk is the first piece.
He's obliged to
Yawgmoth.
resolve Time Walk. He can DT for Time Walk and resolve it. If he does that, he'll have 3 mana left. So he's trying to figure out, can he dig? Yeah, Nature's Claim could get a card into the graveyard. You're kind of right that Pyroblast would be better in the graveyard. Wow, so few of those cards do anything here.
Not much you can do against a big angry fish. The situation also why a lot of these decks run 1 Hurkyl's Recall or 1 Rebuild.
True. Yeah.
I mean, this would be a much, much different game.
If he had a single Hurkyl's Recall in his deck.
Yeah, if he had a single card that could do anything here.
Right. Nature's Claim is going to gain him 4 life. Oh, Dave is flipping his top as a response. You have a misstep? He's got a mental misstep on top. No 4 life for you. Although Josh can misstep back. It just does mean he has to spend blue mana.
Yep, it takes up a mana. It does put a card in the graveyard, but it takes up
he
mana.
uses the Pyro. The Pyro is probably better than the misstep. I'm not sure when it would matter. I mean, the misstep is a blue card. He needs to do some future Force of Will. All right, so Nature's Claim is going to resolve, and Josh is going to gain 4 life. Now he's down to 5 mana. He can Demonic Tutor for Time Walk. I don't know if he can do anything else. Oh, he can Demonic Tutor for Time Walk and cast Vampiric Tutor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's typically better there.
Oh, he's going to dig through time instead. He's not.
I guess if you're using it for that, I was going to say I think you might want to Nature's Claim the Sapphire if you want to try Yawgmoth's Willing this turn to put the Sapphire back in play to generate more blue.
Sure.
But
yeah, he's not on the DT for Time Walk in the Yawgmoth's Will plan. He's on the Dig Through Time plan. Which, I don't know what he can find from here. 3 missteps. 3 missteps, Pyroblast, Dig Through Time, Fast Bond. None of that does anything.
Well, Fast Bond.
Oh, Fast Bond doesn't do nothing. That's true. Fast Bond would allow him to DT for Time Walk.
Yep.
Cast it. So, yeah, he has to take Fast Bond. And the Dig, sure. Wow. This is going to be the craziest comeback I have ever seen in any Magic game ever.
Don't start counting those chickens.
I'm not counting them. I'm just saying, like, he's still alive. I wrote him off like 10 minutes ago. I gave the whole speech about the playoffs and what was going to happen next week. Yeah, so here's Fast Bond. Still think it's DT for Time Walk.
How do you feel right now if you're David?
Scared.
Like, you like your spot, but this turn has taken quite some time.
I know.
And every time he casts a spell and doesn't concede, it just feels like it's getting worse.
Yes.
Like, you're just starting to go on full-blown tilt at this point.
I think I'm on anxious bordering on scared. I don't know if I'm to full-blown tilt yet. I'll say full-blown tilt.
At this point, I just F6 and walk away.
F6 and walk away? You don't want to know? Go watch. Wait for somebody to post it on Twitter. Yeah, well, here's the Demonic Tutor.
If he time walks and you have to hit something, I mean, from a distance, maybe I glance back and see if I have priority. But
Yeah,
sitting through this turn, just thinking about it in the dark, if there,
no, you're right.
it's soul crushing. If by some miracle there is more magic to play, you can't like rack your brain for 15 minutes while he's taking his turn, and then if he does pull off some sort of miracle, play magic from here on out.
We are waiting for Rug Doctor. Like, he may have walked away from his computer. He may be in a puddle somewhere. In some corner. All right. Demonic Tutor resolves. We can't think of anything but Time Walk. Use Fast Bond to put 2 land into play. Cast Time Walk. Maybe 3 land. No, you can't 3 land Vampire. That doesn't work. But then where do you go next? I still can't see it.
Nope.
I assume the Time Walk is still in his library. It didn't get removed, right? He hasn't cast one this game, has he? It's a giant remove from game. Yeah, Time Walk is still in the library. Is this going to be Demonic Concede? You got to at least do the Time Walk for the sweat, right? I mean, the torture value of it all.
Demonic Conceit is pretty powerful.
He's also extending his lifetime in the lead, right? He doesn't get another match until season 3 at the earliest. Wow. What a season.
No, it's been a heck of a run. I'm glad to be a part of it. And even more glad to start off 0-5. Probably not be in dead last.
Yeah, got the Time Walk. Uses Fast Bond to put the Tropical into play. Uses Fast Bond to put the Underground into play. Dave's blood pressure is rising.
And Time Walk, Upkeep, Vamp Tutor for the Yogg Will.
It gets him what? A turn? It doesn't get him much. He doesn't even have access to 2 black mana, does he? He has to crack a fetch land. He can't if he Vampirics. Yeah, he cannot Vampiric for Yogg Will.
So you just flat out plan on the top card of your deck being the right card. The best kind of Vampiric Tutor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, can't Vampiric Tutor. It has to be there. He's thinking about
Josh just said it. I can't believe I have access to my entire deck and reasonably whatever mana I should need, and there's not a line here. There's not a line that gets me out of this.
No, he needs a Hercules. He has no Hercules recall.
Yeah, or no Hercules, no Edict effect, no.
Right. I mean, he has Jace, but credit to the deck list, right? David's playing with Inkwell Leviathan, and it is hard to get off the board once you get it into play.
It is indeed.
Yeah, Josh takes his Time Walk turn. Vampiric, really? What are you getting? Can't be a black spell.
Another gush?
Nature's Claim is no longer good enough. Oh, Nature's Claim lets you cast a black spell that you get off Dig Through Time? Hilarious. He can Nature's Claim and then dig into the 2 cards that he actually wants. He can, he almost has to be Nature's Claim. Which is bizarre. I mean, paying 2 life to then draw the card that gains 4? I don't know. What did he get? He got Nature's Claim.
Yeah,
It does fill up the graveyard for Dig. All right, Nature's Claim on Mox Sapphire, and look at that. There's now 6 cards in the graveyard.
One of my favorite Vampiric Tutors I ever saw was Upkeep Vampiric.
He will get the double blue by using Fast Bond with the life that he gains off the Nature's Claim.
I saw John Fickle Vampiric for like the black to do 2 damage or something. Gain 2.
I remember that. Yeah, U.S. Nationals.
Yeah, to do 2 damage
Vicious
to a
Hunger.
2/3 creature and say go.
Just needed to gain the 2 life.
But he paid the 2 life. He actually realized the only way he could win is if he drew a Yawgmoth's Will with that in the graveyard with his Massacre. So he could actually clear the board. And that was the next card he drew, and he won that game because he Vampiric Tutored for Vampiric whatever, like to just...
Vicious Hunger, yeah.
To Vicious Hunger.
That was insane. I remember that. I had no idea what he was doing. I was watching over his shoulder. Didn't have a clue what he was up to. And then the Yawgmoth's Will came off the top, and it was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah. And it came together like a moment out of a movie.
Yeah.
Remember, I was standing next to Steve O'Mahony Schwartz, and neither of us had any idea what was going on.
Dig through time. He's still going. This is kind of awesome.
It's something. He's getting full value out of his time in the VSL.
And his deck. All right. What does he see? Game 3, match 45. Josh trying. Hand's got nothing. It's down to this last dig through time.
With 28 minutes left on the 60-minute clock?
It's been his turn for a little while. Look at that exile zone. Rah! Showing off. Also, you get a chance to see if you haven't been on Magic Online this week. They definitely improved the way the various zones work, graveyards and exiles and revealed zones. Kind of pop them up and put them wherever you want them. At whatever size you want them. No idea what these 2 cards need to be. Gush, okay. Gush and Young Pyromancer. Why not?
And what's funny is David has only had, 4 turns this game?
Yeah.
I mean, well, he's only seen 10 cards plus the one he tinkered for.
There's the Yawgmoth's Will. Can he cast it? He's still got the Time Walk in his yard, right? He's got 3 life, so he can play 2 lands with Fast Bond. Then he can cast Yawgmoth's Will, and then he's out? He's out of mana. Doesn't he run out of mana here?
Yeah, I mean,
Fast
both
Bond
Nature's Claims are out of the game.
Wow. Yawgmoth's Will resolves, and he can Gush. He needs to hit what? Black Lotus there, basically? Yeah, I think he needed to Gush into Black Lotus, and then he had a shot.
I think he may need to Gush into 2 Black Lotuses at this point.
Well, quite possibly. And there you go. Fast Bond, crack a fetch land for the suicide. Josh Utter-Leyton digs and digs and digs and puts quite a scare into David Williams. But ultimately, it is David Williams that wins the match.
Wow.
It is David Williams who goes to the playoffs. Clean cut. The only tiebreaker is for the 1 seed. We do have the 5-way tie, but the 5-way, or is it a 4-way tie? 5-way tie. The 5-way tie is for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Not all that exciting.
Aren't there prizes to play for there?
We could play out some crazy 3-bye bracket to see who gets to draft 5th and who gets to draft 6th.
I think we're all fine going into a hat for that.
I think, yeah. I think we're all fine going into a hat for that. I agree. All right, yeah, we will randomize and figure out who gets to draft 5th and who gets to draft 6th. But we're not going to spend 2 weeks breaking a tie for that. What a season. And now we get playoffs.
Now we get playoffs.
Yeah, we've actually got a playoff bracket. We can look at it to make sure sort of everybody understands what's going to go on. You can see that the 3 seed and the 4 seed, that is Eric Froelich and David Williams. We don't need to break their tie because they're playing each other anyway. They'll play best 2 out of 3 matches next week's show. I don't know if we can add the matches to this bracket, but it'd be cool if we could. In the it's not super important. In the 2 seed, we're going to have either Luis Scott Vargas or Steven Menendian. Yeah. We'll get a bracket made up pretty for you guys next week. There you see Eric Froelich. Yeah, I don't know who the 1 seed or the 2 seed is going to be. What we'll do is next week we will have them play a 1-match playoff. It'll be with their playoff decks. So whatever decks they're committed to for the playoffs, first they'll play each other, and then they'll be using those same decks to play the rest of their playoff matches out. We'll have the 2 matches next week, and then we'll probably have to think. I don't think we want to have both the semis and the finals in the same week. We'll probably just spend 3 seasons to finish the season from here. We'll have the 1 semifinal happening in 2 weeks, and then we'll have the finals. We'll get a show to itself. It's best 3 out of 5 matches, so it could be every bit as long as a regular show, plus all the stakes and all the excitement. So there you go. We know David. We know Efro. We will soon figure out whether it's LSV or Steve. Any final thoughts on this week, Bob? Just happy to be out of last or disappointed to not make the playoffs? I think Bob is now done. A little late for him, a little late for all of us probably. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sign us off. Wow, what a day. Eric beats Luis to clinch playoffs for himself. And then the 4-4s lost. I took down Chris. Steve took down Tom. Bob took down Rich. Josh versus Dave, though. David makes it a clean cut. Wow, hell of a day. Thanks, guys. We will see you all next week when it will be playoff time. So see you then.